I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think about it. When was the last time you walked into a room and truly believed you belonged there? When was the last time someone challenged you, questioned you, doubted you, and instead of shrinking, you stood your ground? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and thought, yeah, I've got this? For most of my life, that wasn't me. I grew up with almost zero confidence. And I mean that genuinely, not in the humble, self-deprecating way people say it to seem relatable. I mean, I was the kid who second-guessed every single thing. Every word before I spoke it. Every step before I took it. Every decision before I made it. I was consumed by self-doubt in a way that is very hard to explain unless you've lived it. I had very low self-esteem growing up. I was a teenager who felt like an outsider, made to feel conscious about who I was, where I came from, how I looked, how I spoke. And it wasn't the whole world doing it. It was just a few people. A few bullies. But here's the thing about bullies that nobody really talks about. You don't need 100 people to tear you down. You just need a few voices at the wrong time in your life. And those voices become the loudest thing in your head. High school is hard for everyone. I know that, but there's something uniquely painful about being in a place where you're trying to figure out who you are, and someone is standing right next to you, telling you that whoever you are, it's not enough. That whatever you look like, wherever you come from, it doesn't fit. It doesn't belong. And being a teenager, you don't have the tools yet to fight back against that. You don't have the life experience to say, you know what, that's your problem, not mine. You just absorb it. And it sits inside you, quietly, and it starts to shape the way you see yourself. So I grew up in that shadow, that quiet, heavy shadow of not feeling good enough, and then life threw me into the deep end. Suddenly I found myself in a completely new environment, competitive, high pressure, surrounded by extraordinarily talented and accomplished people. And I had a choice. I could let everyone see how terrified I was. I could let the self-doubt that had lived in me for years come to the surface. I could shrink, like I always had, or I could do something different. I chose to fake it. Now I know that sounds like terrible advice. Fake it till you make it has almost become a cliche at this point. People roll their eyes at it. But I want you to understand what I mean when I say I faked it, because it wasn't about being dishonest. It wasn't about pretending to be someone I wasn't. It was about making a decision, a conscious, deliberate, daily decision that I was not going to let anyone see my fear. I was not going to let anyone see that their words or their judgment or their presence made me feel small. I was going to walk in, hold my head up, speak clearly, and act like I believed in myself, even on the days I absolutely did not. And something extraordinary happened. The more I acted confident, the more I started to feel it. Not overnight, not in a week, but slowly, gradually, the gap between the performance and the reality started to close. I started to actually believe the things I was saying. I started to actually feel the strength I was projecting. And I realized something that completely changed my life. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. It can be practiced. It can be developed by anyone, including the most scared, most doubtful, most broken version of yourself, including the teenage version of me who used to cry over the words of people who didn't even matter. Including you, wherever you are right now. I want to be really honest here because I think we do people a disservice when we talk about confidence like it's something magical that some people just have. Like it's a gift. Like either you were born with it or you weren't. That is simply not true. I was not born confident. I built it. brick by brick, failure by failure, uncomfortable moment by uncomfortable moment. Every time I was scared and did it anyway. Every time I was told no and came back with a yes. Every time someone underestimated me and I used it as fuel, that was me laying another brick. And along the way, I started doing something else that changed everything. I started becoming okay with who I am. That sounds simple. But it is one of the hardest things a human being can do, because we live in a world that is constantly telling you who you should be, how you should look, how you should speak, what you should want, what success is supposed to look like. And if you don't fit that mold, and most of us don't, it's very easy to spend your entire life apologizing for it. Adjusting yourself, making yourself smaller so other people feel more comfortable. I stopped doing that. I decided that I was going to become the best version of me, not someone else's version of me. Not the version that fits neatly into what people expect. The realist, most honest, most unapologetic version of who I actually am. And once I made that decision, something shifted. I stopped needing other people's validation as much. I stopped being devastated when someone didn't approve of me. I started thinking, okay, that's your opinion. I respect it. But I'm all right. I know who I am. And here's what I want you to hear. Everyone can get there. Every single person. Most people just don't realize it, because they're waiting. They're waiting for someone to give them permission. They're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting until they're more experienced, more successful, more prepared. But confidence doesn't come before the action. It comes because of the action. You don't wait to feel confident and then try. You try. And through the trying, you build the confidence. Now, I also want to talk about creativity for a moment, because I think it ties into all of this. I was always creative. Growing up, I used to write. I did plays. I threw myself into performances and stories and ideas. But here's the thing. I never thought of creativity as a real direction. I didn't know what to do with it. It was just something I did, not something I was building toward. My path wasn't clear. My destination wasn't mapped out. I was just moving forward, doing the best I could with what I had. And then somehow, and I still find this hard to fully explain, life guided me. Something led me somewhere I hadn't planned. And once I got there, everything I'd always been started pouring out. The writing, the producing, the storytelling, the opinions. It all found its outlet. It all found its purpose. And I think that happens for people more often than we realize. I think sometimes the path reveals itself not when you're standing still planning it, but when you're moving and learning and saying yes to things that terrify you. I don't know what that guiding force is. I don't have a label for it. It might be God. It might be the universe. It might be something far bigger than any name we could give it. But I believe in it. I believe that something is working in your favor, even when it doesn't feel like it. Even when you're in the dark. Even when you can't see the next step. I believe that your job is to keep moving. Keep learning. Keep showing up. And the path will meet you. I remember when nobody wanted my opinion. I want to say that again, because I think it's important. I remember the years when I was not the person in the room anyone was turning to. I remember doing the smaller work, the overlooked work, the work that didn't get the credit. I remember being the side character in stories that I knew I had the ability to lead. And I didn't complain about it, at least not loudly. I worked. I showed up. I did every single thing I was given with the full weight of my ability. And through that, piece by piece, I proved something. Not to the world, to myself. Because here's what opportunity actually looks like, and I think this is something we get wrong all the time. We imagine opportunity as this grand, obvious moment. A door that swings open and someone gestures you through. But it's almost never like that. Opportunity looks like a small door, slightly ajar, in a hallway you weren't even looking at. It looks like a conversation you weren't expecting, a role that seems beneath you, a chance that doesn't look like a chance yet. And the only people who walk through that door are the ones who are paying attention, the ones who are hungry, the ones who have done the work to be ready when the moment arrives. No success is just going to knock on your door one day while you sit and wait for it. That is not how this works. You have to be able to recognize opportunity, and then you have to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. Because I promise you, there are 25 other people who want exactly what you want, who are willing to do exactly what you won't. What will separate you from them? I'll tell you what separated me. I was once asked why I was chosen over people who were, and I'll be honest here, objectively more physically striking than I was, more polished, more prepared in certain ways. And the answer I got back was simple. It wasn't my looks, it wasn't my background, it wasn't anything I was born with. It was that when I spoke, I was confident, I was clear, I was present. I believed what I was saying, and so the people listening believed it too. I was 18 years old when I learned that lesson. 18. And it is a lesson I have carried with me every single day since. Confidence is the key. Not talent alone, not luck alone, not beauty or background or connections alone. Confidence. Because here's the truth that I have lived. When you believe in yourself, genuinely, deeply, even imperfectly, the world starts to believe in you, too. Not because you've tricked anyone, but because belief is contagious. Certainty is magnetic. When you walk into a room knowing your worth, people feel it before you've said a single word. Perception is reality, and you get to choose the perception you create. So wherever you are right now, whether you're the teenager who feels like an outsider, whether you're the person who's been told they're not enough, whether you're sitting in self-doubt that feels like it has no bottom, I want you to hear this. Confidence is a skill. And you can learn it. You can build it. You can choose it. Starting today, starting right now, starting with the next thing you do that scares you. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to move anyway. That's where it begins.